everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I hope you enjoyed this live legal education content, and today will be the day I earn that subscription. For today's story, we are covering Johnny Depp, the trial of April the 26th, the day that we had and what happened in it. So it was a very good day for Johnny Depp, all things considered. Some wonderful testimony that really goes to show both the violence of Amber Heard and the passivity of Johnny Depp from various levels of testimony that we saw. So it was a very good day overall, and I'd like to go over some of his testimony. I'd like to take a look at some of my notes that I have while I do this. So our first witness today was Tara Roberts, who is Depp's estate manager on his island in the Bahamas, who has managed the island for 15 years. So, good work if you can get it, I guess. Managing an island in the Bahamas sounds kind of nice, right? It sounds like a nice thing to be had. She talked a lot about how Johnny Depp was there to detox, and also with respect to the wedding. She made a point of mentioning that during the wedding, apparently there was a ceremony that included dinner, dancing, and drugs. So, and that Depp was only drinking Dr Pepper, which was a nice little note there. And then in December 2015, she recalled an argument between them, and then hearing yelling, and then the next morning, at the cafe later that day, they noticed a large bruise on Johnny Depp on his nose. So this was the incident where he was hit with the mineral spirits that we heard about earlier. So the island manager testified to seeing the damage to Johnny Depp on his nose as a result of this incident. And she got a bag for ice for him and helped to reduce the swelling. And the next morning, she testified that she did not notice any injuries on Amber Heard. And she also saw the bottle of mineral spirits leaking onto the deck. So she observed all these things, right? So it just goes to show that Amber Heard is physically violent. We see marks relating to the physical violence. We see evidence of the physical violence in relation to the mineral spirits bottle or can or whatever it was. And we see that Johnny Depp didn't touch Amber Heard because she saw no injuries to Amber Heard. So, pretty good testimony, right? She's been a manager for 15 years. She's seen Johnny Depp, was there during the wedding with the dancing, drugs, and dinner. There with the detoxing, there to see this particular incident with the damage to the nose. Help him get ice on it and all the rest of it. So, a good witness for Johnny Depp. Really, really nice. Our second witness of the day was Psychologist Dr Curry. She's worked for apparently 15 years, 10 of them being licensed, I believe, if I understood correctly. And she has worked in couples therapy, among other fields. So she gave her whole curriculum vitae, as you do as an expert witness. And it seemed very impressive to me with the work that she's done. And also, she had the opportunity, the reason that she was called is that she had the opportunity to examine Amber Heard. Now, the reason that this is true is that Amber Heard has put her mental state into question. So once you put an issue into question, the other side has the right to discovery on that issue, right? So your medical stuff is secret, but if you want to make an issue out of it, the other side has the right to examine that evidence. You can't really have it both ways at the same time. So that's why there was a psychologist who was authorized by the court to examine Amber Heard, but not the other way around, because Johnny Depp has not made his mental state a issue of the case. He's talked about it a little bit in some respects, but it's not a central aspect, where Amber Heard has said she suffered PTSD from the specific incident. And so it is part of her case. So that's why, there was one examination of one party, but not by the other. And there was confusion, at least by some people in Legal Bites chat, on the aspect of who this was in terms of who paid for them. So it was a court-ordered examination because, as I mentioned, Amber Heard put this into issue. So the other side has the right to discovery. And one of the ways they might be able to get discovery is, for example, by having a psychiatrist examine her. And of course, the other side fought it, as you would expect, but they lost the fight. So they said, yes, you can have a interview with them as part of this stuff, and you can also look through their medical records. So there was an order by the court that Miss Heard participate, but it was always Johnny Depp's psychiatrist. It was someone who was recruited and paid for by his legal team, and of course him. And we heard a lot about how she was recruited at this dinner with, drinking or something at his house and stuff like that, but whatever, right? But what we heard from her in her testimony was we heard her go over the evidence that she considered, which seemed to be fairly expansive. She has looked at the doctor's reports. She has looked at the nurse's reports. She has looked at Amber Heard's medical records. She has reviewed the information regarding pharmaceuticals. She has reviewed notes in the medical file. And most notably, she had the opportunity to spend time with Amber Heard in order to examine her, which seemed to be fairly extensive to my mind. Seemed like she had quite a lot of opportunity to review things. So she had a fairly thorough picture. And she reached the conclusion that Amber Heard suffered from, and I have this down somewhere, borderline personality disorder, and the other one was histrionic personality disorder, which is more interesting, at least. And the jury didn't hear as much about that as I really wanted them to be honest, because histrionic personality disorder is a little bit more interesting for the case. Not $4.99 from IFID. Hey, Kurt, thanks for all your content and featuring on Bites coverage. I nominate you for Super Scottish Justice. Take some of my money. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, so I wish they'd heard a little bit more, because histrionic personality disorder is much more in keeping with the theme of what Amber Heard's issues are, in terms of like the narcissism, desire to focus on her, desire to play the victim and stuff like that. I mean, they heard something, but I wish it had been a little bit more expansive. It was an opportunity that the direct could have spent more time on, and it felt a little bit short to my mind. But at least we got out that she was diagnosed with these things, along with all these sort of things, and talk about personality and how personality is consistent, which was really, really good. And then also we heard from her about how she used this Minnesota inventory test to help her determine about the psychological examination, which is part of the way of determining whether her PTSD is really real. And she determined that Amber Heard was concerned about her image, can be cruel, and is prone to externalizing blame and unable to admit responsibility. This was very good, right? She's good for that, right? And she makes desperate attempts to prevent abandonment issues, and has the ability and reads into things. And so, this was all really, really good testimony for Johnny Depp on direct in terms of this witness. She also talked about how Heard, in her opinion, does not have PTSD, because, as I mentioned, Heard has claimed that and meant to be an issue. So she used this other test called CAP5, which I don't know what that is, but it's in my notes, to determine that she does not have PTSD, because she testified that PTSD is easily fakeable. She said that if you give the average person on the street, like just a normal, ordinary man walking down the street, and you give them the diagnostic criteria for PTSD and tell them to fake it, that something like 93% of the population can do a good job. And this is because we've all seen images of PTSD in images of movies and, media, and something that, that there's a lot of exposure with war movies and stuff like that. So people have a good idea what it looks like sort of from that exposure, from the cultural zeitgeist. And then when you give them the inventory, they're able to fake it with something like 93% accuracy, which is pretty good. So the CAP5, she said, was one of the tools to help determine whether or not a person's faking or whether or not it's real. So Heard apparently initially, on her initial evaluation, before the Cat 5, said that there was 19 out of 20 criteria. But once they did the Cat 5, it was only 3 of the criteria. 499 from Stacey Farrell. If you were leading the defense team, how would you present her side of the case? I don't know. I don't have enough information to answer that question. But, you know, I'm sure I would do all the prep and all the witnesses and look at it 100 different ways. I don't have enough information to know at this point. But thank you for the super chat. So she's determined that there's some sleep disturbances and and startled responses, but, you know, overall she doesn't have PTSD. So she was able to really take the claim out of that a lot. And then she also talked about how women with these kinds of conditions can often be perpetrators of violence, which was a nice little echo of what we heard from the Bahamas Island manager earlier that day. Now, then we got into the cross-examination of this witness, which had some good points, to be sure, but the good points were kind of lost. This cross-examination had some good stuff, but it was overall ineffective. It started off good by trying to show criteria she didn't have. So they asked her, she's board certified? No. They asked her if she's ever testified regarding intimate partner violence specifically? No. You know, they asked her whether or not, you know, she has some other criteria, I forget exactly which, to which she answers no. So they did a good job at the start trying to show that she had some weaknesses as a potential expert, that she didn't have these criteria. Now, the degree to which you think those criteria are necessary or not, you know, is one thing. But it was, at least to my mind, effective to try to show weaknesses, right? Because the direct did such a good job, in my view, of going through her CV and going through her experience and going through her ability to observe things and going through all that stuff, that you need to do something or anything to try to take the wind out of the sails. And they try to do that, and did do it to some degree by showing these things. And again, it's for the jury to decide how much those matter or not, but at least they were able to do something that at least tried to take the wind out of their sails. And so I thought that was effective as to, you know, the actual presentation of it. Again, what the jury will believe or not, you know, I can't speak to, but I thought it was effective in getting their points out. And then they also had some good stuff with impeachment. And I'm trying to remember the example I gave to Legal Bites earlier on one of the good impeachments. And I can't remember because it's been a long day. But there were some good impeachments. Now, an impeachment is where a witness has said something that's inconsistent with their current testimony. And so you're bringing to light prior statements and saying, well, these prior statements are inconsistent with these prior statements. Now, some of the impeachment was not good. And some of this I remember, like, for example, that there was stuff written by the attorneys where the attorneys said that she would be a good witness as to particular aspects. And she said, I hadn't reached an opinion at that point. And they try to impeach her with the documents of the attorneys, but she didn't write those documents, right? So it's not really effective impeachment. So that's all she has to say is, well, I didn't write that. And that wasn't my opinion at the time. So I don't know what the lawyers were writing. You know, I'm not a lawyer, but that wasn't my opinion at the time. And that's like a really good answer. So there's an example of like an ineffective impeachment. They also had impeachments over things that didn't really matter, which is a huge problem as well. For example, and then again, I can remember a specific example here. She apparently testified at some point prior, and it might have been in a prior trial or the deposition or whatever, but she apparently testified that often the first thing she does when she has these kinds of cases is review the patient's medical records. So they ask her on the stand, well, do you, I think they might have said always, incidentally, do you always review the medical records first? Which incidentally wasn't what she said. And she's like, well, you know, it's the usual step, but not always, which wasn't really inconsistent with what she said, to my mind. More to the point, even if it was inconsistent, who cares? Who cares? When she said during deposition, it's the first thing I do, does that literally mean the very first thing I do? Or is it like one of the first things I do? I mean, you know, she said it's the first thing, But does she literally mean like every time it's literally the first thing I do, or it's just one of the first things I do, right? So to my mind, it doesn't matter, right? To show this tension between these statements. It's like, you're testifying now, you don't do it every time first, but this time you said you always do it first. I'm like, who the hell cares? Between these two statements, there's just not enough daylight for me to get my panties in a twist over. And there was a lot of stuff like that, unfortunately. There was a lot of questions that were ineffective cross-ex, going to statements by the lawyers, which aren't hers, going to things that are so incidental and so inconsequential. It's like, I just don't care. Why are you fighting over this? I can't be bothered to care. It's like, really, you're going to make me a liar over this? Come on. It just didn't really. Yeah. So I thought there were some good points of the cross-examination, to be sure, as I mentioned. There was some effective stuff, and there was effective impeachment, although I can't remember an example right now. I mentioned one in Legal Bites when she asked me, but that was, 6 hours ago when I remembered it, and now I don't. But there was at least one I was able to pull out when I talked to Legal Bites. And I remember, at least in part, saying that it was really good because they didn't ask the one question too many. They got out the inconsistent statement and just stopped and moved on to the next thing, which is what you want to do. You don't want to ask so isn't it true that you lied, because it gives you the opportunity to clarify. They brought the impeachment. They showed the inconsistency. It was a sufficient enough consistency. They made her read it. They asked, is it correct? Yes. And they stop. That's what you want to do. You don't want to ask the next question because it's the one question too many. You don't want to give them an opportunity to explain. So that was an example of very effective impeachment where they stopped exactly when they should have and moved on to the next thing. Kudos, because it can be really hard for lawyers to do that. It can be really hard because you want to really drive the stake home. But if you do it, man, you open yourself up just as nightmares. And so it was expertly well done for that reason. So I thought there was some good stuff on cross. Again, the degree to which any of this matters to the jury's mind, because so much of it was muddled and so much of it was inconsequential and so much of it was sort of banal, that any sort of good points were kind of lost in the mix. So this can be fixed to some degree on close, because depending on how you write your close and depending how you integrate these good facts, you can bring this to the juror's attention again. But I don't know, you could have done this better with only asking the really damning stuff and leaving out the fluff stuff that doesn't really matter. It's like, do you really want to fight over this minor distinction? And do you really want to ask 18 questions about the dinner where she was hired? Really? We really have to go into details about this with the dinner? I mean, it's slightly unconventional, but not out of the mind of putting someone in a more casual setting to interview them at Johnny Depp's home, and the lawyers were there. But it's it's true you were served drinks. I mean, okay. Yeah, I think there was drinks served. I might have had a drink. I don't know. Why do we care? You were at Johnny Depp's house, weren't you? Yes. And being interviewed by him. Well, I was being interviewed by the lawyers, and dinner was served, so yeah. Okay. And it's whatever effective point there was to be had there was lost, to my mind. Maybe there was something there, but if it was totally lost. And then we decided to ask not 18 questions, but 38 questions about Muffingate. Muffingate. Who cares about the muffins? Who really cares about the muffins? Seriously. So apparently the doctor's husband gets muffins sometimes for his wife because his wife brings muffins to sessions, which okay. And apparently that particular morning, the husband bought the muffins because she was running late. So the husband's got the muffins for her. And we tried to make a thing out of this for some reason. I don't know. I don't know what was going on with that. I just don't know about the muffins. And then I made what I thought was a very good joke, and the chat sort of agreed, where I was like, well, maybe they were blueberry muffins, and that's the problem, because Johnny Depp's legal team was all wearing blue yesterday, and it's the blueberry muffins to show allegiance to Johnny Depp. So that was one of my moments of good wit during today's stream with Legal Bites, where, people responded to that positively. But so many questions about the muffins, and so many jokes about the muffins and the Muffin Man. We did not need to know this much information about the muffins. So there was moments like that where things were ineffective. There was bad impeachment. Things just didn't really go anywhere. There were some good moments. So it wasn't a total write-off. But, could have been better. Could have been better. Too much fluff. Any sort of thing was lost. And then we had just the greatest witness at the end of the day. This LAPD officer, Melissa something. I didn't quite get her last name. I didn't quite hear it, so I just wrote down Melissa. So Officer Melissa, no disrespect intended, who responded to this domestic violence incident on May the 21st, 2016. And basically just testifies, yeah, there was no domestic violence. I mean, it was just great. She was on video, so it was not the best, but as a result, we got to hear Amber Heard's lawyers asking questions initially, which was hilarious, right? So Amber Heard's lawyers did a deposition on video, and Johnny Depp puts Amber Heard's lawyers asking questions into evidence, which, they can absolutely do. It's available for both parties, and they want to do it. And Amber Heard's lawyers trying so hard. They're trying so hard to extract something out of this officer that will be helpful. And they're just not getting anywhere. There's like, are you sure that's when body cameras were issued? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. It has a serial number. It's on this website. Yeah, pretty sure. It's like, you weren't taking any notes? Not when I was there, because I wanted to keep both hands free, because, just in case. Were you concerned about your safety? I'm always concerned about my safety. You never know when something might happen, so you keep your hands free so I can, deal with the problem, which is a perfectly sane answer, right? I did a total sweep of the apartment, didn't find anything, didn't really see any signs of domestic violence, didn't really notice any problems with the apartment. Didn't really notice things that said to me domestic violence. I was looking right at her, didn't see any injuries. One of her cheeks was a bit red. And then the lawyer, like Amber Heard's lawyer, is trying so desperately to make fetch happen at this point. And you can't make fetch happen, but she's going to try. Oh, it's a little bit more red. Oh ho. Is it because of the punching? Is it possible it's because of the slapping? And just asking like ridiculous questions, asking it every possible way to get something, anything. And the officer's just like, no, it wasn't any of those things. I've been trained by, my force. Not the first time I've been to a domestic violence call, seen quite a few of them in my time. It is, in fact, our practice to, conduct arrests regardless of what the person wants if we find sufficient evidence. Did you find probable cause? And she just says there wasn't a crime. Outstanding. Outstanding, right? This is a person who has no reason to lie. She's a perfectly neutral witness. And she's there like, yep, I was there. I did a sweep of every room. I looked in every room for any possible people. Yeah. Firmez Diaz says some people were saying that Amber Heard might have told her lawyers a false story concerning the muffin husband, and they're flustered by the doctor's explanation. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the lawyers did their due diligence. I'm sure they just didn't take their client's word for it. So I don't know the degree to which that's true, but, whatever. But yeah, it's like this officer's like, yeah, I looked in every single room, make sure there was no one there. and to make sure there's no one injured, make sure no one's hiding. I looked in all the rooms, didn't really see signs of distress, didn't really see any injuries on Amber. Nothing at all. It was just devastating. And listening to Amber Heard's lawyers try so very, very hard to make fetch happen, and she's just like, no. No, didn't happen. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. It just didn't happen. So, yeah. It was just really good. And then we heard Johnny Depp's lawyers also, of course, interviewing the same witness. And we just got more of that stuff, right? We got more stuff about how there was no crime, no probable cause of crime, no injury, no property damage. I didn't file a police report because there was nothing to file. There was no evidence of any kind. Just completely devastating. Just totally devastating. Internet commentator says, I saw someone on Bad Legal Advice say that people are making too much out of Amber Heard's lawyer objecting to his own question since it was actually hearsay or something. Well, I mean, someone could render that opinion, I suppose. Has the stream stopped? Hold on. Is it dropped? It looks like it's doing the circle of death. Okay. Looks like it's better now. Whew. Whose witness was the officer? They were both. I mean, it's both their witnesses, right? It's Amber Heard. It's Johnny Depp's case. So Johnny Depp put her testimony into evidence. It was circle of death on my side, so I was concerned. At least in the YouTube, it was circle of death. So I was like, yeah. So it's kind of both their witnesses, which is kind of true of everyone, to be honest. Everyone is everyone's witnesses. Like Johnny Depp can call anybody. Amber Heard can call anybody, right? And this is true also of criminal cases, incidentally. Anyone can call anyone. So, it's whoever wants to make it an issue. So Johnny Depp wanted to use Amber Heard's lawyer's deposition to crush them and use their own deposition to crush them and just get this officer is particularly neutral and just all that kind of stuff. It was a great day. And that was the end of the day today. So, yeah, the island manager, with the incident where he saw physical violence to Johnny Depp, didn't see it on Amber Heard. The psychologist, who I thought was very effective, with some limited effective cross that kind of got muddled and lost. And the officer finishing strong and just completely crushing out everything. Victor says, do you think this can get better for Amber Heard's team? It's very difficult to turn this around after the expert opinion officer. I don't know what they have in sort of their direct case. I don't know what they have, and I'm not going to presume what they have. Things look really, really bad for them right now. Things are not looking great. This officer with the objective testimony, no reason to lie. Internet commentator, so if JD called the officer and did direct and she crossed, could A call the officer again for more direct? Yes. As a matter of fact, yes, but I don't think there's any possibility for that in this particular case because this was based on depositions. But as to another witness, yes, right? They could call them for stuff. Yes, they could call them on direct. Sure. So, yeah. Has the plaintiff rested? No, I don't believe so. No, I don't think so. I think the plaintiff still has some more to go. Yeah. Heard's lawyers, they have a habit of starting a decent cross only to throw it away. Yeah, this has been a bit of a problem for them. Also, the volume and sort of tone of the female attorney was a little bit too much. It was sort of too aggressive, I think, all things considered. And not necessarily warranted. So, there was some good stuff there, but, there's some messed up stuff. The psychologist's analysis was pretty brutal. I agree for that. Yeah. Every day is a good J for Day. I mean, it's going well for him so far. So, I don't know what witnesses Amber Heard has, but, you know, the psychologist, I mean, she has her own psychiatrist, I presume. I mean, I assume she has her own psychiatrist and psychologist to testify about the PTSD she definitely had. So I'm sure she has that. Whether or not she has any witnesses to, like, anything, I don't know. I think the husband of the woman who was kicked out still has to testify. Remember the woman who was kicked out because she reviewed stuff of it? I think her husband is on the list because I think he was on the plane of one of the incidences and can testify to that. So yeah, Janie gives me $10 because you stay up late to talk to us. Yeah, I agree. The officer was just by deposition. She wasn't there in person. So it doesn't make sense to ask, really, it doesn't make sense to ask the question, is she released? She's not there. So, I mean, her testimony is frozen on video. So, I mean, yes. So to the extent there's anything in the officer's testimony that could be helpful, Amber Heard's lawyers have the right to, of course, present that either as, you know, cross-examination or direct examination or whatever, but I don't know how they're going to get any of that. I thought lawyers only ask questions they know the answers. They objected to their own question. Can't calming the cost, but if Amber Heard's own therapist testifies, it's not impartial view. She's skewed towards Amber. Well, the same thing could be said of Johnny Depp. And also, her own psychiatrist presumably knows her even better. Depending, I mean, you know, depends how many sessions they did. But, you know, presumably knows her better. So, I mean, you know. Rob Price says, do you think it was a bad look to try and impeach the psychologist about her husband bringing the muffins? A little bit. A little bit. And claiming she told him who was coming to see her. Yeah, I don't really know that goes anywhere. Yeah. Could they call the officer to testify in addition to the deposition? I guess theoretically they could. Wouldn't it be hearsay without the officer testifying in person? No. Strictly speaking, no, because this is technically an in-court statement because of the deposition. It's done during the discovery process. So I think that's how it qualifies. And also, I think they stipulate everything. I missed the muffin story. The muffin thing went on for a while. Did Amber Heard having to turn over text and data? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know that, answer. Like and subscribe, yes. I checked the handy dandy hearsay flows chart, and depositions don't count as in court. Noted. Thank you. What type of muffin were delivered? I don't think they said specifically. You okay, Kurt? You're sweating like you just ran a marathon in Death Valley. No, I'm not. My skin is a little oily, but I'm not sweating. There's no sweat. Jackass. HP, I bet they're tempted to ask the doc from today about having watched last week. I'm sure it will come up. Dude, I thought you went to bed after the Scott stream. No, I had to record a daily end cap. 174 likes, 400 plus viewers hit the like button. Are oaths taken for depositions? Yes, they are. They're taken under oath. Yeah. What happened if it reeked of desperation by Heard's lawyers and probably just draw more attention, solidify the testimony of the psychologist? Yeah. Is her having dinner and drinks for the interview harmful? I don't think so. No, I mean, it sounds like a professional interview, albeit slightly more casual, which I understand the rationale for. So, like, the idea that they had dinner and interviewed over a dinner with a drink or two to try to loosen things up and maybe get a more accurate read. I just don't think it does anything. I think it's a total non-starter. Am I still covering the KJ hearing tomorrow? Yes. I believe that hearing is still happening. KJ apparently on Instagram tonight said she's intending to withdraw her motion to dismiss, which is hilarious, and trying to come up with counterclaims, which I'm not 100% sure what that would be, but okay. So, all right. She wants to withdraw her motion to dismiss so she can file the counterclaims. Okay. So, this hearing is obviously still scheduled for tomorrow, and I seriously doubt the court will kill it at the last minute. So I don't really know what the hearing was to discuss in the first place, and but I'm sure the court will still do it, if nothing else, for a status conference. I mean, it's already on the books. Why the hell not? So yeah, I can't imagine it's going to be canceled. So I'm going to cover that. Comment the chaos. Can you comment in general what lawyers think of mental health professionals, psychologists? No, not really. I don't know what all lawyers generally think. I don't know lawyers speak badly about psychologists in general. I don't know that that's a thing. I've never really heard them speak about it much at all. There was an accusation in Legal Advice Chat that I had said really bad things about psychologists and psychiatrists, but I never said anything remotely like that. Do I even sleep? I do sleep. Yeah, who's Katie Joy? Katie Joy Paulson is a YouTuber, blogger, runs a channel called Without a Crystal Ball. She's a gossip channel, basically, and she gets sued a lot. And she is a bit of an intense character. But that being said, all the lawsuits that come against her that I've covered so far have been pretty shit. So I first got introduced to her through the Toddy Without a Crystal Ball lawsuit, which I covered, and I eventually got it right in terms of the jurisdictional issues. And I thought that the case from Todd Chrisley, who's suing her, was pretty weak. But I guess I'll never find out. Am I good? I'm very good. Why do you ask? Yeah, so she's a gossip kind of, I guess, gossip journalist, we would call. She runs a gossip column, basically. And she gets sued a lot. She's also being sued by 7M, which is this talent management company out of California, which also has affiliation with a church/cult. So that's a whole thing. And she's also being sued by someone else whose complaint was okay. And there's rumors that the rest of the Chrisley family is also looking to sue her, which might also be interesting. So, yeah. So if Johnny wins, how does he get $50 million if Amber doesn't have the money? Well, the amount of the money will be awarded by the jury, and how does he get it? I mean, she can claim bankruptcy, and, you go from there. Since JD has been called as a witness, can he be called up later? Yes, he can. He can be called in redirect. Or, yeah, the representation. Rebuttal. That was the word I was looking for. He can be called in the rebuttal case. My experience as a mental health counselor is that lawyers think mental health counselors are inferior. I don't know. I can't speak to that. Does client specifically refer to attorney-client relationship? No, not necessarily. Could refer to other relationships that are professional. You might want to back away from the camera a little bit on a 50-inch. On a 50-inch, it feels a little... That's funny that my face is on a 50-inch TV right now. In glorious 1080p. Does 24 days of include rebuttal? Yes, it does. Johnny's team will get a final say after Amber Heard's closes. Yes, he gets a rebuttal case. $5 from Janny. Kurt, I missed the hat. Makes you look even more dashing. Yeah, I wear the hat sometimes, especially for batch records. But, I'm not wearing it right now. Shit, Kurt, I got you on a 75-inch TV from Steven. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying me on your 75-inch TV. That is disturbing and hilarious. Do I have an estimate about how much time each legal team? No, not really. Jackbox, not tonight. I don't have the energy for it. I'll just do some cute questions and then I'm going to go to bed and crash. And I have a lot of work to do tomorrow. Does Johnny win even if he loses? I mean, that depends on your perspective, really. $2 from Mandy Caravicius. Howdy, Kurt. Hello. Since I'm not on Discord, I sent the links to law school flowcharts via Stephanie to you. Okay. Jackbox is like a party game. Jackbox makes party games that you can play on the internet. So it's just a bunch of games you can play with other people. I did one last night, I think, or the night before. Any more thoughts on Spidey's analysis? Not in particular. I kind of think I said what I needed to say. You know, the chat was very against my opinion, which was, you know, I don't know what to do about that. You know, I mean, it's just an honest opinion. I mean, I said it right to the man's face. So, you know, I'm not like talking behind his back, right? I said it right to his face, basically. It's like, I don't buy this. So, I mean, you know, I had the courage to say that to him because I think it's true. And, you know, and he validated me to some degree, which was appreciated. But, you know, I don't really have much more to say about it than that. What was my unpopular opinion? What chat was against my opinion? This was in Legal Bites. Legal Bites. So Spidey has a channel, which I forget exactly what it's called, to be honest. But something like, he does behavioral analysis. He does body language analysis and behavioral analysis, and apparently has served in some sort of expert role in sort of interrogations and stuff like that, and also business interviews and things like that, to try to highlight when people are lying and stuff like that. And, you know, I took the position in the chat with Legal Bites, and you can go watch it, and you can go watch the chat like turn against me, and basically people hate me, and people say like, we never want Kurt on again. He's a downer. He's you know, he's killing the mood and all the rest of it, right? Behavioral art, the behavioral art. Okay, so behavioral art is his channel. Anyways, so basically saying that I was a downer, killing the mood, and all the rest of it. And as I was telling Spidey, as sort of, because I've read a little bit of literature on this issue, you know, my understanding of the literature is that professionals in the field are no better than an average person at being able to detect lies or truths from people. So like, it was interesting because people in chat were kind of proving my point and they didn't know it, which was really which was really annoying because they didn't know they were proving my point. But like, all these people in chat were commenting things like, you know, you're showing your emotions right now. I just saw you slowly, you know, smile. I saw this on your eye. I saw this on your eye. I'm like, okay, so you're kind of proving my point, right? Because you're all a bunch of amateurs. And you're all saying like, yes, I can see it too. So, yeah. So like the literature I've seen shows that people who are professionals, like FBI investigators, you know, are basically no better than a member of the general public at being able to detect lies, and basically them and the general public basically suck at it. We're all really, really bad at it. We're all horrible, just horrible. And then he said things like, I just didn't agree with him, and seemed kind of BS to me. So I expressed my opinion. So he showed a graph of what he said, and I'm like, I don't buy this. And I expressed an opinion. So I'm going to try to like do it with my fingers. So he said a natural emotional thing looks like this, like a smooth curve. So think like a bell curve, but kind of flatter, I guess, is like a natural emotional thing. So if it's natural emotions, it's slower to come up. It has a much more even and a much more even sunset, right? Whereas opposed to a real emotion, you'll see a slight delay with a sudden spike, and then it'll be like at 100 for a while, and then basically crashes, right? So it's more like, a box, it's more like binary. Like it's more like off, on, off. Whereas a natural is more smooth. And I said, that's not exactly true. The professional psychologist, some interrogators are better than a coin flip. That's not exactly encouraging. They're slightly better. They're better than a coin flip is not exactly encouraging. But yeah. So I basically said, look, I don't buy this because some emotions, I think, can come on quite suddenly and quite rapidly. Like, anger or, sadness is like something, I think you can have genuine emotions that come on quite rapidly and don't have this like curve that just go, it's like when you say something ragey or something, it just kind of, and so I was like, I don't really buy this. This doesn't seem true to me. And then, that the consensus was that I was an idiot. I didn't know what I was talking about, and that I do the curve thing, even though I'm not aware of it, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. So, yeah. And like all these things can mimic other things. Like, he says what did he say? How was it looking down? He says like looking down can be a sign of deception, but it can also be a sign of someone who's just deep in thought. And it's like, yeah, $2 from Janny. Join the channel. Janny also gave $5. Super challenge you all. Show some love. $5 from Rick Savage. Psychiatrist testimony is devastating, considering Amber Heard's going to confirm everything she said unknowingly. Yeah. So, I kind of was just of the opinion that this is, it's a fun parlor game. And, I think it's good for like cold reading, because like cold reading, people will remember the hits and forget the misses, which is one of the things cold reading does. So if I've never really studied it in depth, but I know a little bit about it. Like if you know a little bit about cold reading, it's like, you make 1,000 guesses and people don't notice, but they know the one guess that you got like really, really right. And they have a tendency to ignore the rest. And so they're like, wow, that's amazing. Can't believe you got that. It's like I got so many wrong before, but you didn't notice. This is like a thing in cold reading. And so like it can be fun as a cold reading kind of thing. Like it can be fun to be like, oh, I see you elevated your eye. You must be feeling blank. And if the person is feeling that at that particular moment, then they feel very exposed. Right? So it's kind of fun as a parlor trick. It's kind of fun as a interrogation tool, I suppose, but it's not. I mean, you could never get it admitted into evidence. You could never get a body language expert to testify in an expert capacity. You could never get a body language expert on the stand and then be certified as an expert and then start saying, well, this is what body language is and this is what it means. And so we can know this. It doesn't meet the standards for scientific certainty. Yeah, people think the TV show The Mentalist is real or something. Yeah, this is basically the problem. So like I was critical of Spidey, and again I said it right to his face. I mean, he was there. So, I wasn't trying to say something behind his back or something. I was just like, I'm not quite buying this graph. It doesn't seem true to my experience. And then said, I have questions about the profession basically, and I've read these studies, and have you read these studies? And he said, yes, he has, and stuff like that, and so blah blah blah. And it's like, so that, there was a. But if you go watch Legal Bites when I said it, and it's sort of towards the end somewhere. So it's probably like nearer to the end. I forget exactly where in the video it is, but it's definitely nearer the end of the video than not. But if you go watch when I said that and go watch the chat, man, the chat was not happy with me. The chat was saying things like Kurt's an autistic, Kurt doesn't have friends, Kurt doesn't understand social interaction, Kurt is a downer, Kurt is a party killer, you know, and so forth and so on, to varying degrees of, you know, insulting language. And I'm like, well, the rest of the law tube apparently is buying this. I'm not buying this. You know, I'm not buying. I was like, I like, you know, I'm not buying this. It's like, oh, you know, I know what you're thinking because of the look on your face. I'm like, so, okay. Yeah, but so does everyone else. Right? Because I was like scouring. It's like, so I'm doubtful. I'm like, yeah, so everyone can tell that, right? So, common chaos, that sucks, yeah. Jim says, I just assume everyone's lying. Yeah. So, the chat in Legal Bites was having none of it. And like, you know, 50,000 people were watching or something at the time. So, you know, the chat was not pleased with me as I poo-pooed, you know, his profession. And I'm like, you know, I just don't really think this is real. So, you know, and it went over. I mean, the law tube itself handled it pretty well, and Spidey, for credit, you know, tried to handle it well in terms of brokering peace. You know, so I let him broker peace. I said, you know, we can reach detente for the moment and move on. You know, and let him broker peace. So he tried to broker peace to try to give me credit and stuff like that. So, you know, okay, I respect that. As Lord Rackets preaches, never listen to the chat. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah, Rob, there's a reason body language experts and lie detector tests aren't allowed in court. There's just educated guesses at best. Right. They're not reliable enough. They're not reliable enough to be admissible in court. They're just not reliable enough. You know? And so you're saying basically you're a human lie detector. I'm like, I don't think so, man. And again, it's like I've read some of the literature. I mean, I obviously haven't read as much as him because it's not my profession, but, you know, I've read a little bit because some of it comes up in law, you know, with some of this stuff, right? Because I've read some of this literature because in my 14 years of legal experience, and particularly in law school as well, sometimes you read papers outside of law that are touching on things, right? So you're reading things, or at least you do, or at least, you know, not necessarily in class, mind you, it's not on the curriculum. But if you're me, you know, you read something that's second order from the law because you're interested in it, because it's a topic you care about, which I do, about law, right? So if I'm in criminal procedure or criminal defense or something, I mean, if I'm in criminal law, you know, and taking that class and, you know, talking about interrogations, you know, one of the things I might read, and one of the things I did read, for example, some of these papers talking about how the professionals kind of suck at the lie detection. And so I'm like, you know, well, I've read this and it seems like, you know, $13.99 from Peter Gout. I listened to that. I thought you came through across as skeptical but fair. I thought it ended amicably. I thought it ended amicably too. But like, hold on. I'm just trying to find some stuff. See if I can do a quick Google search at 1:18 at night as I am tired. So my foo is not as good on this. All right, so here's one. See if this says what I need. See if this says what I'm looking for. Yeah, here's one. I'll just give you one source as an example. Okay, I'll just give you one source as an example to prove my point that I'm like not completely full of shit. So give me a second to pull this up in OBS. I have to like change the margins and stuff. So give me just a second. All right. Now this is from JCJL. What is JCJL? Journal of Criminal Justice and Law. Okay. So this is from the Journal of Criminal Justice and Law. A Journal of Law and Public Policy section of the Academy of Criminal Justice Sciences. So, okay, so here's one source just to kind of show you what I'm talking about, okay? All right, so the article is from 2020. The Science of Deception Detection, a Literature and Policy Review of Police's Ability to Detect Lies. Okay, so hold on. Well, that's not what I wanted to do at all. No, we're having a bad day here. Okay, there we go. So I can put the chat over here while I'm reading. All right, so let's just take a quick look at this. Okay. So let's see. So, okay, not only is lying persuasive, but most people struggle to detect it. Lie detection has shown the observer who lies on cues alone correctly classify on average 54% of truth or lies. So the average person off the street is able to determine a truth or lie based on physical cues 54% of the time. So not super encouraging, right? And then it says the accuracy of this is just a little bit better than chance. And then active detection, which requires gathering information, fact-checking, communicative context, strategically prompting deception cues, encouraging admissions, and discourage continuing deceit, is not much more effective. Even with gathering facts, research suggests that most people are still unsuccessful at distinguishing truth from lies at a level significantly greater than chance. All right, so that's your average person. And then it goes on to say, blah, blah, blah. All right. So here's where it talks about officers a little bit. The officers' interpretations are a significant concern because interpretations may guide the investigation. A study by Hill and Motson, 2011, determined most police officers believe they can detect deception. In a sample of 2,800 police officers, the researchers found that 88.1% of the officers believed they could detect deception during interviews, and 67.9% of officers were making their assumption on the basis of observations of nonverbal behavior, which would be, the physical stuff like these things we're talking about. These findings are common. Stonewall and Greng also found most police officers believe there's a strong relationship between deception behavior and gaze aversion and body movements. Does any of this sound familiar? However, despite special training on how to conduct interviews, police cannot tell any better than a layperson whether a suspect is lying or telling the truth. Casson, 2008. In fact, some literature has concluded the accuracy of police deception detection may be below average. Garrido, Masip, Hero, 2004 report police officers' accuracy with deception was approximately 47%. whereas law observers obtained an overall accuracy rate of 59%. Not great. So this is the kind of thing I'm talking about, right? You can see these kind of reports. So this took what, like 3 minutes of Googling for me to find this study? Just to find one that was representative? Didn't take very long for me to find it, right? From 2020, basically saying, yeah, even the pros suck at this with the body language, and, the nonverbal cues, and they might even be worse. Not great. So, this is the kind of thing I've read in the past, and this is the kind of thing that made me question what Spidey is saying. It's like, I don't dislike the guy personally, but it's like, well, I've read some of this literature, like the one we just reviewed just now, and as they note, these kind of findings are common, so there's lots of other papers that kind of say the same thing, and they'll say it about FBI investigators, they'll say it about judges, they'll say it about lawyers, they'll say it about other sort of personnel who think they have a really good ability to detect lies. Nope. Pretty much everyone sucks at it. So, this is what I said, kind of. I said, I just didn't buy it. I didn't buy the analysis, and, the entire chat basically consumed me for my opinion. It was not a comfortable experience at the time, let me tell you. All right. Here's another one, I think. Let's see if this says what I'm looking for. Introduction goes on forever. Participants, questionnaire, blah, 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 blah. Results. Blah, 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 blah. Still going on. More background. Still more background. Even more background. All right, here's something that kind of shows some of this as well. So this is from PubMed, by the way. This is from the National Institute of Health, in case you're curious. In terms of nonverbal cues of deception, our findings that especially gaze aversion, nervousness, movements, and sweating were reported as cues fit with mistaken held assumption that liars are more anxious, nervous than truth tellers. These cues are even reported outside the legal field. Within healthcare professions, nurses as well as therapists have often been shown to show these false beliefs about deceptive cues. Moreover, Hart, Hudson, Fillmore, and Griffith compared manager and non-manager beliefs about deception cues on work floor. The incorrect and widespread assumptions might be a result of a common view that lying is bad and liars should therefore feel afraid of getting caught. By this understanding, gaze aversion and increase in body movement signal nervousness that liars feel. So, there's that. And I think this talks specifically about police officers at some point in this article as well. Well, there's something in there about police. Let me try to just do a search and see if I can find where they talk about police more. So many references. I'm not at my best today, or I'm not at my best at this hour, so you'll forgive me. The reason the cops are usually worse than average is because everyone assumes is lying to them. They don't think about white quote syndrome. Don't take this the wrong way, Kurt, but you're way too sensitive to criticism. Screw them, their opinions are just as shitty as everyone else's. I am sensitive to criticism. This is true. I mean, who likes, the 3-minute hate when the Just Tire chat turns on you? Who likes that, Okay, here's one. Here's one from Psychology, Crime, and Law. This is a journal, Psychology, Crime, and Law. Problems in expert detection and the risk of false confessions. And it says here, more than half a century of lie detection research has shown that observers who rely on nonverbal cues or verbal cues without established verbal lie detection procedures correctly classify an average 54% of truth tellers and liars. This percentage is low given that 50% of truth tellers and liars will be correctly classified just by flipping a coin. Practitioners who see themselves as expert in lie detection and laypersons achieve similar accurate results. So this is kind of the things that I was referring to when I was reading. $2 from Potentially Criminal. Nice to be here. Being an idiot on the panel is part of my job. Thank you. $5 from Ross Wolf. My takeaway from Spidey is X means this and also means 4 other things. Which, it's like a bad fortune telling. It means this or perhaps the exact opposite of that thing. Peter Garot says, I listened to that. I thought he came across as skeptical but fair. I thought it ended amicably. $5 from Rich Savage. Watch Body Language Ghost on YouTube when you get a chance. Change your mind. You're welcome. $9.99 from a person with a basically random username. $19.99 from Peggy Cole. Peggy Cole, $9. People, if you don't have something to say, don't say anything at all. It's rude. $5 from Richard Feeman. Kurt, skepticism is broken these days. These say, I'm finally not broke and subbed to locals for 6 months. Don't discourage. Buy the flowers. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know the degree to which fMRIs are good or not. Rob says, I wouldn't say you're oversensitive. I would say you're a very empathetic person and try to tell the truth, but when you don't understand why people get upset when you voice your opinion. Yeah, I don't understand sometimes, because I don't know. Yeah, I don't understand sometimes, I guess. Yeah. I've always said you don't suffer fools well. That's probably true. That's probably true. Yeah, I don't know enough about fMRI to intelligently comment. I know they've been trying to use fMRI as a lie detector. I don't know the degree to which it's been successful in any ways. Elitist fans just don't want anyone to get hurt, but we need the truth to smack us when we stray too far? Maybe. Kurt, you have strong opinions and some people can't accept that. Keep on being you at Uncivil. Yeah, I mean, the reaction from the chat just seemed overly vicious and overly strong, and it was a little bit annoying. Rob says, I can tell that as I struggle with the same issue. Everyone has the right to opinion. Just because someone disagrees is no reason to insult or degrade. I mean, yeah, that's obviously true. All right, I'm going to sign off for now because I'm tired of shit and I need to get up in about 6 hours. If you've enjoyed this stream, please remember to subscribe. If you do the YouTube things, something, I'll see you guys another time. All right, my friends, until later, peace and good night.